Okay, welcome everybody. All right, so what we're doing is we're going to move the polyatomic ion quiz to Wednesday. Everybody get that? Our test is on Thursday, and then I'm considering giving you the ability, if I give everybody an index card, you have to write on, not typing, but you just have to be able to write on it and bring that with you. So I'm going to tell you on Wednesday whether or not I'm going to let you do that or not. All right, so how do you learn these? By the way, does anybody know how many there are? Like, how many cards did you make? What do you think? How many cards did you make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So right now there are 23 of them you have to know. Is that right? There's actually a couple more, which I may get into, I may not. I may not do those. Of the 23, on the quiz Wednesday, it'll say you have to write down 17 of them, but if you do more than 17, you get bonus points. You got that? So you have to know 17 of the 23 for sure. And then by the time the test comes around, you have to know all 23. Is that fair? All right, so let me show you how I would learn this. Number one, I would go home, get a piece of paper, and put +1, -1, -2, -3. So if everybody get a piece of paper out right now, this is one way that I'm going to show you how to memorize these, all right? I can't show you how to memorize all 23, but I can give you a great head start. All right, if I look over here, I notice that there's only one of them. There's only one of them that is +1. Does everybody get that one? And if you did your flashcards, you probably remember that one. And it was called ammonium. Now I'm done. I am done with the +1 column. Ammonium, isn't that right? Look, ammonium. Yes? All right, pretty easy. Now, look there. Look at this right here. Hey, there are only 2 of them. There are only 2 of them with a -3 charge. Let's go to -3. What are they? There's the famous one. What's that one called? Some of you thought the quiz was a day, so maybe you already know. What was this one called? Phosphate. Now, watch this right here now. I'll show you a little trick. Here's phosphate, right? There's only one more that has a -3 charge. And look right here, show you a little trick. The good news, they have the same charge. This guy has 1 less oxygen, doesn't he? So they want to call him Jerry. No, not Jerry. What did they decide to call him? Not phosphate, but what? Phosphate. That's pretty close, isn't it? Wait a minute. You mean if I could learn phosphate and I take away an oxygen, I know phosphate fight also? Yeah, that's right. Wait a minute. That's not so bad. All right, let me show you something else now. Watch. If this guy right here, here's my fist, if this guy's -3, what do you think would happen if I took phosphate and added a hydrogen to it? What's -3 and +1 add up to? What do you think? What if hydrogen is +1 and phosphate is -3? What if I add those together? What do I get? I get -2, don't I? Is that right? So watch this right here. If this is phosphate, what do you want to call this guy? Babalinsky? No, what do you want to call him? Look for it. Hydrogen phosphate. Whoa, wait a minute. If I know phosphate, take away an oxygen, I got phosphate. If I know phosphate and I go over here, then I know hydrogen phosphate, don't I? Instead of -3, now it's -2. And you know what else you can do? Look at this. Let's add another hydrogen. Wait a minute. If phosphate was -3 and this is +2, oh, that's going to be minus. Wait a minute. What? You didn't tell me about that. Phosphate is linked to phosphite. Phosphate is linked to here, and that's linked. What do you think? What are you going to call this guy? If this is hydrogen phosphate, this is dihydrogen phosphate. Now, right now, you simply know 4 of them. If you know phosphate, you know 4 of them, don't they? There's one that's not even on here. What if I said this? HPO3. What do you think the name of that would be? What do you think the name of HPO3 would be? Let me see who's smart here. Who can think? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. It's not even on there, is it? If on a quiz, if you want to put that on there, I'll give you credit for it. Yes. You want to close the door? Okay.
Do we have to memorize in a specific order, or we've already like
No.
memorized? No.
I am trying to help you, though. I'm trying to help you understand how to do it, okay? You don't have to do it in order, get that? But do you understand that there's only one of them that's plus one and I'm done? Do you understand there's only two of them that are minus three and I'm done? What if I could memorize the minus twos, then what would all the rest of them be? If I could memorize a few of these, what would all the rest of them be? Minus one, wouldn't they? I wouldn't even have to remember that. All right, so let's go over here, and let's see, let's go down to this column here, the minus two column. This is the one that's probably the most famous of all the minus twos. I use this one a lot. Now, it has, by the way, do you notice that phosphate had phosphorus in it? Everybody get that? I don't know why people don't catch on to that. It has phosphorus in it, doesn't it? What does sulfate have in it? What do you think? What elements are in sulfate? What's this element here? Sulfur. It has sulfate. Sulfate has sulfur in it. Now, I wonder what you would call take away an oxygen from sulfate. If this is sulfate, what do you think they would call it? And it has the same charge. If I took away an oxygen. Wait a minute, I think I see a pattern here. Phosphate, sulfate, what? Wow, this is not as hard. If you'd told me they were linked, I could have done this. Okay, now, guess what I'm going to do over here? If you're minus two, what do you think would happen if I tacked on a hydrogen onto sulfate? If sulfate's minus two and you tack on a positive hydrogen, what charge is that going to be? That was minus two. I'm going to add plus one to it. It can't be minus two anymore. It's minus one, isn't it? What are you going to call that? George? No. What do you think? Aurora, show everybody. You're paying attention. Show everybody.
I think that would be
What are you going to call this guy?
hydrogen sulfate.
Yes, yes, yes. And, wait, what are you going to call this one, Aurora?
Hydrogen sulfide.
Yes. See, no one ever taught, when I was in chemistry in high school, no one ever taught me a pattern. They just, here they are, go memorize them. And I just had to do the best I could. Okay, you okay with that? Let's go some more minus twos. Carbonate. I like using carbonate in compounds. What does carbonate have in it? What element does it have in it? Carbonate, doesn't it? It has carbon and oxygen, doesn't it? Okay, I like that one. Now, let's go over here again. And, whoa, oh. So you can't be minus two anymore. You gotta be minus one. All right, let's see, Delaney, what do you think you want to call that? If that's called carbonate,
Hydrogen carbon.
yes, yes, yes. Now, you're tricking me, Mr. Feeney. You're making it easier. I thought it was going to be... It's easier, isn't it? Okay, now to do one more. Now, these don't have hydrogens with them, but CrO4 and what is that called? I'll give you a clue. It has the element chromium in it. It has chromium in it. What do they call this? Look at it. What is it called? Zach, what is it? Do you have your paper? What's the one that's CrO4 minus two charge? Chromate. Okay. Now chromate has chromium in it. That's going to help you remember that. Get that? Now I have a little tiny memory trick. It's not a great one, but it helps a little bit. What if you were to double all this? It'd be Cr2O8. Now it's almost doubled. What is dichromate? What's dichromate? It's almost doubling chromate, except it's really CrO what? 7. Okay, so I just have to tell myself, well, that's pretty close to doubling chromate, isn't it? C2O7. What do you think? Not bad. If I know phosphate, I know phosphite. If I know phosphate, I know hydrogen phosphate and dihydrogen phosphate. I even know hydrogen phosphite. I didn't even write it down, but there's a dihydrogen phosphite. Okay? Now, sulfates. Sulfate, SO4. Sulfite, SO3. Sulfate. Hydrogen sulfate. Hydrogen sulfide. Carbonate. Hydrogen carbonate. Chromate, dichromate. Okay, so one more time. There's only one of those. There are only two of those. And here, even though it looks like a lot of them, these are kind of belong to those, don't they? And so I have to learn sulfate and carbonate. If I know sulfate, I know sulfite. Carbonate, chromate, dichromate. Now, at this point, all the rest of them are going to be -1. All the rest of them are going to be -1, okay? So I'll try to show you some more tricks. And we have till Wednesday for the quiz, and you have till Thursday before the test. All right, let's go over here, and I'll show you some down here that, here's one that forms a series, okay? If you could learn this guy, what do you think that one is? Look on your chart. What's this one called? ClO3. Chlorate. Okay, now. All right, that's called chlorate. Everybody got that? All right, now, if you know chlorate, I bet you can tell me how to write chlorite. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. Phosphate, phosphite. Sulfate, sulfite. Chlorate. How do you write chlorite? Kyle, how do you write chlorite? I thought here is when I took away an oxygen, phosphate became take away, so it's 2, right? Everybody see that? So chlorite would be a ClO2 and same charge. Get it? Are you with me? Okay, now there happens to be another one. ClO. Now, wait a minute. You take away an oxygen from chlorate, it becomes chlorite. You take another oxygen away, you're going to call chlorite. That's not bad, but I bet chemists said, I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say that. So they have another word. What's another way that you could say, I'm even less than chlorite? Anybody had Latin in here? You don't want to admit it? No. You've had Latin? What's another way of saying even less than, smaller than, below? What Latin word helps that? What if you're out in the cold so long that your normal body temperature is lower than normal? They say you have what is it? Hypo. Have you ever heard of that? Hypothermia? All right, when you put a needle in the arm and it goes underneath the skin, that's a hypodermic needle. Hypo means below, derm means skin. Hypodermic. Hypothermia. Your temperature is below the normal body temperature. So what they did is a little bit of Latin here. Hypochlorite. Hey, wait a minute. Chlorate, take away an oxygen, chlorite. Take away another oxygen, it's even less than chlorite, hypochlorite. Now, the reason I even want you to learn that one, I bet everybody at this house has somewhere in their house a bottle of bleach. Do you think you might have some bleach somewhere for laundry, or some people use for disinfecting? Bleach. Do you know bleach is sodium hypochlorite? Sodium hypochlorite is bleach. All right. One more in the chlorate series. I learned this as a series. What do you call it if you add an oxygen? And chemists like to say per. Per means add an oxygen. So chlorate ClO3, I'm going to add an oxygen to chlorate. I get it. Perchlorate. Everybody get it? Now, so what I would do is I would learn these together. If I had my flashcards, I'd say chlorate, take away an oxygen. Chlorite, take away another one. Hypochlorite. Chlorate, add an oxygen. Perchlorate. Okay, now, there are some other ones, and that's all the memory tricks I have. But on the other hand, there are two of these that somebody told you the other day. They should have slapped somebody in the face and said, "Why did you want your polyatomic ion to end in IDE? You should not have done that. Compounds end in IDE. Remember that? You shouldn't have polyatomic ions in an IDE. What are the two that end in IDE? Hydroxide, and cyanide. That's poisonous, isn't it? Sodium cyanide is rat poison. Everybody get that? I learned these together because they were terrible names. They ended in IDE. Now, I'm not done yet, but I'm getting close to being done. I think there's two more. I don't have good memory tricks for these. This is the most complicated polyatomic ion that we have. And I'll be honest with you. Nobody made me memorize this in high school. And then in college, they kept saying this. And I just couldn't remember acetate. I couldn't remember it. And I couldn't remember that. So I made a little stupid trick, okay? I knew it was CHO. And I went 2, 3, 2. 2, 3, 2, and I don't know. I still do it today in my head. I do it in my head. Acetate, CHO, 2, 3, 2. I'm done. And what's the other one? There's one more. MnO4 and -1, and this one has manganese in it. I think they should have called it manganate. They didn't. Permanganate. Okay, did we leave any out? See if we left any of them out. Oh, nitrate, my favorite. This is my favorite ones. Nitrate is NO3. I use that more than any in all of chemistry, okay? Nitrate. And what do you think NO2 is? Nitrite. Okay, there we go. What do you think? Now, if I were you, if I went home and I did the same thing again, +1, -1, -2, -3, let's see how many you come up with. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you cover up everything today. It's not a quiz. Cover up everything. I'm going to do it again. +1, -1, -2, -3. All right. Cover up everything. Get a piece of paper out. Yes?
After you take classes for like 5 minutes, can we like have time to study this and ask questions?
What now? Today? Oh, it's not a quiz. It's not a quiz.
But I'm saying like
You want to look at it before?
for Wednesday.
Oh, before on Wednesday. Yeah, when you first came in, I'll probably give you the first 5 minutes if you want to do that. Yeah, I can do that. Sure. You know what? All I'm asking you to do right now is, without studying, how many of these can you come up with? What if you could come up with 20 already? Man, you're in great shape. What if you can only come up with 1? You are not in good shape. Okay, try it. So let's see how many you come up with by yourself. And let's put a 4-minute time limit on there, okay? Let's go. In the next 4 minutes, how many can you come up with without looking? Try to do it without looking. But all you're trying to do is tell yourself, where am I at in this thing? Do I really want to wait till Tuesday night to figure out I don't know any of these? probably the thing you don't like is that phosphate is PO4, but nitrate is NO3, isn't it? You probably wish all of them had 8 at the end. You probably wish they all were O4 or O3, but they don't. They're not the same. You guys are still writing. That's good news. All right, one more minute. See how many you come up with in 1 more minute. All right, 15 seconds. How many more can you come up with? That's impressive. I wonder how many of those are right. Wow, that's impressive. Remember, if you don't have the charge on it, they're wrong. They do have to have a charge on them because they are ions. Okay, let's everybody stop, and I want you to get your own answer sheet out or look at this one. Put a little check mark next to every one that you got right. And then I'm going to ask you how many you got. I don't care if you only say 2. If you say 22, okay? This is just for practice, isn't it? Okay, grade them. Say, yep, yep, yep. Oh, missed that one. Oh, oh. All right. Aurora, how many did you get?
17.
17? Wow. I did not expect that. How many? 13? All right. How many? 18? Man. See how you did probably did you do it or not? Were you able to do this? Because you haven't been here. How many? 3? That's fine. All right, how many? May? 18? What?
I thought it today.
Okay, 18. How many? Oh, you didn't do it. You weren't here.
19.
Whoa! Are you kidding me? You're not kidding me, right? Without studying. All right, what do you get, Kyle?
I haven't finished counting yet.
I'm sorry.
I haven't finished counting yet.
About how many? You get close?
Like 15.
Okay.
16.
16? I am impressed. If you had 15 or more, I'm impressed. Actually, more than 10, I'm impressed. 15, I'm really impressed. All right, so can you learn these? Can you learn these? You have flashcards, don't you? I showed you a method of how to do it. Take a piece of paper and do that. How many can you come up with? And like that. And then find out the ones you don't know and say, I got to study those a little bit. How many of you remembered acetate? Did you? Okay. Did the 232 come in handy? Okay. Did you get the whole chlorate series? The whole chlorate series where you get, if you start with chlorate, you go to chlorite. If you go less than chlorite, you say hypochlorite. And then if you want to add an oxygen to chlorate, you have perchlorate. See how you memorize those together? How many of you came up with both of the ides, hydroxide and cyanide? Oh, see how that works? All right, very good. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. I'm considering something. Let me think about it. What we could do is I could limit this test to only type 1, 2, and 3. I could do that. And I would have polyatomic ions on it. Or I could teach you type 4 and type 5 and have it on all of them, like that. It only takes 10 minutes to teach type 4. I'm honest, it takes 3 minutes to teach type 5. So what I'm going to try to do is, I think what I'll do is go ahead and teach it, and then I won't emphasize 4 and 5 as much. I might even make them bonus or something like that. How about that? So your job is to make sure you know type 1, 2, and 3 really, really well, and you know your polyatomic ions, okay? Well, let me go to, if you have your paper with you, we'll go to a lesson, and we're going to go to, let's see. Oh, I know. I didn't teach you this yet. Go back to page 1 right here. I never talked about this guy here, right? You might say, well, why would you even draw that on there and not talk about it? This would be a minor thing on the test. If I gave you 50 questions, it might be on 2, 3 at the most, okay? This is minor. But I want to show you something. It's a problem in chemistry. It's a problem and it's not going away. But here's what happened. The way I taught you how to do it is called the stock naming system. It's the Roman numeral system. And that's the way you use it with metals that are not always metals, okay? But before they started using Roman numerals for chemistry, they had this old system, and it was called the Ich-Us system. Okay, now the Ich-Us system, at one time they said, well, some of these metals only have 2 charges they can be. Iron can only be 2 and 3. Copper can be 1 and 2. I bet all the metals have only 2. Oh, they were wrong, but at least they thought that was the case. So they came up with a naming system before they started using Roman numerals. It was called the Ich-Us system. Okay, so let me see how this works, okay? How would you name this compound with everything I've taught you so far? We know it's lead oxide, right? But do I have to have a Roman numeral or not? Do I need a Roman numeral with lead? Remember how we did this over and over again? Do I need a Roman numeral with a lead compound? Is it an always metal? If it's an always metal, I never use a Roman numeral. Is lead an always metal? They say, wait, can you tell me what those are again? Here we go again. This group here, group 1A, all of these, they're always +1 in a compound. These are always +2. And then we have silver, zinc, aluminum. +1, +2, +3. You get that? I never use a Roman numeral with them, but I have to use it for all the other metals. You get it? So what would you call this with everything I ever taught you so far? You say, well, let's see, each oxygen is -2. There are 2 of them. That's +4. That's -4, I mean. And you must be +4. So what would you call that guy? Lead. The Roman numeral is always what? Charge on the metal, right? Yeah, I would call it lead 4 oxide. And ding, 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 you'd be correct. What would you call this guy? What's the charge on lead here? 2. Then lead 2 oxide. Ding, 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 ding. I taught that before. I reviewed it and reviewed it again. So let me tell you about another naming system that they used before this, and you know what? It's not going away. And if you ever go to college and you become a chemist, you'll hear these. But anyway, here we go. They thought that lead only came in 2 types, and it does. And so here's where my memory trick comes in. See this guy? He's the big, icky monster. He's the big, icky monster. And so which one is bigger, lead 4 or lead 2? Which one's bigger, 4 or 2? 4. He's the big, icky monster. Now, instead of saying leadic, they use the Latin word for lead. And that's actually where we got the symbol. The Latin word for lead is plumbum. Now, I would give you a periodic table, and it would say, here's what it would say on it. Lead comes in 2 and 4. I would tell you that. He's not always metal, right? I would tell you lead comes in 2 and 4, and the Latin word for lead is plumbum. So, what is another name for lead 4 oxide? Plumbic oxide. Notice when I use the old naming system with a Latin word, I do not use a Roman numeral. So one more time, metals that use Roman numerals like this, the old naming system is called the ick and us naming system. And what would this be called? Hey, I'm not the big icky monster, so I'm not plumbic oxide. What am I? Plumbus. Okay? If you're the big icky monster, 4 is bigger than 2, so he's the plumbic. Okay, let's go up here. Look at this guy right here. This iron was iron 2, and this iron is iron 3 oxide, right? Who's the big icky monster there? Who's the big icky monster? This guy, this iron, or this iron? 2 or 3? Who's bigger? 3. So this guy must be the ick guy. What's the Latin name for iron? Ferrum. And I will tell it, you don't have to memorize that, I'll tell it to you. I'll tell you it is. So what's another name for iron 3 oxide? Try it. Here's the Latin word ferrum. You're either going to have ferric or ferrous. What do you think? He's the big icky monster, so he's ferric oxide. Remember, if you use the ick and us system, you don't have to use Roman numerals. You get that? And what is this other one called? Ferrous oxide. I talked to a person not too long ago. They were talking about metals. They had I bought my grandson a metal detector, okay? And it said, set it here for all ferrous metals. What did they mean when they said ferrous metals? That meant it had iron in it. And then it had another dial you had to do for non-ferrous, non-iron metals, like aluminum. Get that? And it could detect those too. Okay, so let's try one more. Here's one. Here's copper 1 oxide. Here's copper 2 oxide. The Latin word for copper is cuprum. Okay, now who's the big icky monster here? Copper 2 or copper 1? Which one's bigger, 2 or 1? 2. So what's another name for copper 2 oxide? Help me out. He's the big icky monster. What are you going to say? Cupric oxide. And the other one would be cuprous oxide. So when you turn your homework in, yes, I'm sorry.
How do you know when to use the us or
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. If you use the Roman numeral method, that's going to be used most of the time. I'm going to have about 3 times on the test where I say, I'm going to make you give me the ick us name. You get it? And I'll have a little asterisk there, and it said, you must give me the ick us name. You get it? And all the rest of them, you can use Roman numerals if you need to. Got it? But that's a good question. When, unfortunately, some of you actually will take chemistry. You don't think you will in college? You'll be very surprised how many majors make you take chemistry. You'll be very surprised. And if somebody says cupric oxide, you say, what the heck is that? And what I'm going to do here on your periodic table on the test, I will tell you that copper comes in 1 and 2. Now, who's the big icky monster? 2. Okay. What if I said cupric oxide? Big icky monster. Oxygen is -2. I'm done. That's cupric oxide. What did you call it before today's lesson? Copper 2 oxide, didn't you? Same thing. All right, so I want to wrap that up. That's everything you can do as far as IC and US system, and I'll review that again. Let's go to the next part. Now, this next part is I can teach this in about 5 minutes, and honestly, unfortunately, I got started just about 2 minutes late. Let's see what happens here. Okay. I know that I'm not worried about type 5. I can teach you type 5 in less than 3 minutes, and you'll understand it. So I can do that later, but let's do this thing with acids. I'm going to try not to emphasize acids on the test. If you're really good at type 1, 2, and 3, and you know your polyatomic ions, you're going to be in good shape. Okay, so here, for some reason, chemists thought acids are really important. They're really important. We're going to name them differently than you name other compounds. I didn't do it, but somebody said that's important. So I want to show you something here. How do you know if something's an acid? Okay. Anything that starts with an H, except for, I have 2 exceptions, water, and this is called hydrogen peroxide. Hey, look at this. Hydrogen oxide, hydrogen peroxide, add an oxygen. Look at that. This you drink, this you better not drink. You get it? You ever see that? Okay. Wait, so if I were to say this, HNO3, you say, whoa, I don't know what that is, but you know what? It's an acid because it started with H. How about this guy? That looks weird. Well, I don't know what that is, but it's an acid. And here's one, HI. I don't know what that is, but it's an acid. So if you recognize as an acid, that's number 1. So here's what's going to happen. If you recognize that it's an acid, then I have one question for you. Does your acid have oxygen in it? Or not? No oxygen? Yes, it has oxygen. Okay, so in your brain, if you said, I want to learn how to name acids, I'm going to show you the easy acids. The easy acids are the ones that have no oxygen in them. And your sample would be this guy here, the most famous acid in the world. It's in your stomach. It's everybody in the world knows this acid. If you wanted to buy it at a hardware store, they actually have another name for it, but I won't tell you that right now. But here's the name of this. This is the most famous acid in the world. Hydrochloric acid. Now, I'm going to show you something here. Ready? This is a pattern. If you do not have oxygen, you will start with hydro. You will end in ic. And the middle part is the non-metal over here. You get that? I'm going to show you. You'll be amazed. Watch this now. If you can name the first one, you should be able to name all of these. You should be able to name every one of these acids. Ready? The first one, hydrochloric acid. What's the next one? Without looking. There's no oxygen in it, so you say hydro what? Hydrobromic acid. Next one. Say it. What's HI? Hydroiodic. Iodine, right? Hydroiodic acid. What's this next guy? Hydro, and they could have said sulfic. They decided to say hydrosulfuric. Hydrosulfuric acid. And what about the last one? Hydrofluoric. That's not so bad. That's not too bad. If I know how to name HCl, that's my pattern on how to name all the rest of those. What do you think? Okay? So when you go home tonight, you're going to take this packet, or your homework packet, you're going to try the acids section, okay? Now, let's go over here to the next part. What if you're an acid and you do have oxygen in you? What if you do have oxygen in you? So I'm an acid and I do have oxygen. All right, here's some good news for you. I have some good news for you. If you're an acid and you have oxygen, it's because you have a polyatomic ion that has oxygen in it. You know why I'm going to make you learn your polyatomic ions? It's going to help you learn acids too. All right, so watch what. I have two of them you want to learn, all right? HNO3, HNO2. Now, do you understand that those are both acids? See how they start with hydrogen? They're both acids, aren't they? Now, watch what happens. If you have oxygen, what is the name of the polyatomic ion that's in that acid? Now, you said you memorized this one, right? What is NO3? What is NO3? Nitrate. The important thing is you ended in 8. Get it? If the polyatomic ends in 8, it becomes the famous nitric. Now, you don't use hydro. You don't use hydro. You only use hydro if you don't have oxygen. That's it. It's plain old nitric acid. Now watch right here. This guy was called nitrite. He ended in ite. So he becomes the lesser known nitrous acid. Now if you can wake up for a second, okay? Some of you are getting a little bit tired, okay? Look and see another pattern. Which of these polyatomic ions is the big, icky polyatomic ion? NO3 or NO2? There are 3 oxygens here, isn't there? Well, then you become the big, icky acid. So I can use the ick-us trick again to say nitric, nitrous. All right, now, here's what I want you to do tonight. You got a lot of stuff to do, right? You're gonna, if you didn't finish your coloring sheet, that should be done. I want you to work on your packet and see if you can do type 1, 2, and 3. And some of them are gonna be ick and us. And then try the acids. I'm not worried about type 5. Type 5 is nothing. It's easy. Okay, I'm not even worried about that. Okay, all right, thank you.